What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing? Before I get started talking about JD Martinez and the Mets are back in talks, and that is a good sign for our New York Mets. Once again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button if you enjoy my content. Want to see more? Want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live? You guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys. So what we've been talking about for months now in the offseason and what I have been beating the drum about, that the New York Mets and JD Martinez are going to come to an agreement at some point. And I said that JD Martinez is going to fall into the laps of the Mets. And I believed it. I always felt that way. And it's looking more and more that the Mets and Martinez are going to be a perfect match. And according to John Heyman and Pat Ragazzo, Mets are talking to JD Martinez and Scott Boras' team again. Interest is said to be mutual, as Steve Cohen has given Stearns the green light of pursuit here. So that tells you that there's a possibility that David Stearns always wanted to do it, and Steve Cohen was a little bit hesitant because the Mets are really up against the tax. And Steve Cohen finally gave his wishes, his saying, go after it, let's go. Or Steve Cohen finally had enough of the constant complaining about DHs and the lack of DHs on this team. Nobody believes Vientos is going to be any good. Choi, Voit, Stewart, we can go on and on and on. Trace Thompson, really doesn't matter what name you give me. There is nobody going to be better than JD Martinez. And I think Steve Cohen is probably fed up with the situation that is currently happening in spring training, where nobody's taking that job or taking that bull by the horns and taking that DH position. Vientos hasn't looked that good. Beatty hasn't looked that good. Trace Thompson looked okay. You're going to really give it to DJ Stewart or Choi or Trace Thompson? I don't believe that for a second. And we've heard a lot of rumors that JD Martinez has been looking for a 2-year deal. Maybe the Mets might budge, maybe a little less per year, but given that guaranteed 2 years might be the way to land JD Martinez. So there's a couple of things to look at right here with the John Heyman report. He also talks about the Mets are among teams talking to free agent JD Martinez, and word is interest is mutual. Mets owner Steve Cohen has apparently given the go-ahead to seriously discuss Martinez, even though the Mets are over the 4th tier of the Steve Cohen tax. Obviously, anybody that they bring in and it costs money, there's 110% tax. Mets like Martinez as a potential answer to solve a long-running lineup issue of protection for star cleanup man Pete Alonso, but other teams, including the Angels, remain involved for the hidden star. I believe that JD Martinez is not going to go to the Angels or another team that's probably is where the Angels are right now, which is kind of in a rebuild. The Mets are in this weird position where one piece could really help a team, push a little bit more towards that contention, that competitiveness, that contender role. JD Martinez can provide that with the lineup. And I've said this many, many times again, that JD Martinez will fall into the laps of the New York Mets. And I continue to say it, and I believed it. And now that rumors and reports are coming out that there's mutual interest between both sides, tells me that maybe the Mets have kind of pushed their way into maybe agreeing to that 2-year deal that JD Martinez and Boras are looking for, or JD Martinez wants to get into camp with 2 weeks left until opening day, and the Mets say, all right, you know what, we'll give you a 1-year deal. Maybe we'll push it a little bit above $10 million, which they're probably not really wanting to for a while, but just maybe it might be the right time to pull the trigger, because 2 weeks into spring, 2.5 weeks into spring training, guess what? There's not a guaranteed, there's not a bona fide player on this roster right now that you could say will be the DH going into the season. And that's a problem. And I think Steve Cohen realized that. I don't know if David Stearns realized that, or both of them mutually agreed to realize that this is a problem. And maybe Steve Stearns was just waiting for the Steve Cohen blessing, or Steve Cohen just had enough. Because no matter who's the boss, no matter how many times people say that David Stearns is the leader of the ship, Steve Cohen can always make the final call. And I think he is doing this in this aspect of a situation where the Mets direly need a bat in this lineup. because nobody has taken that bull by the horns and show that they can be the everyday DH. JD Martinez, we know, can hit. Yes, he's up there in age, but I think it's a risk willing to take with a team that if they don't end up being good, there's a lot of trade options here with 1 year deals, and maybe a 2-year deal possibly for JD Martinez. So there's a lot of options here for the Mets in regards to they can be a good team or they may not be a good team, but they have options here. And JD Martinez is one of those options that could help this lineup big time. And now you're not just talking about the core four, you're talking about 5 or 6 guys in your lineup that a pitcher has to worry about. So once again, guys, mutual interest from both sides. Mets and Martinez back re-engaging in talks, and that's a good sign. So there's a possibility that the Mets might be a little bit lenient earlier on to give that 2-year deal to JD Martinez, which he was looking for, or JD Martinez just wants to get to camp and might be taking that deal with the Mets, that 1-year deal that a lot of people think that he's going to get. Martinez is the bat we need. It's clear, right? You could have thought about Turner, you could have thought about many other guys, but guess what? JD Martinez is probably that perfect bat at this right time, considering what's going on in spring training. And is the deal close? Well, if they're both talking and they re-engage in talks and there's mutual interest, we know numbers, we know amounts, we know years are being discussed between both sides. And this report came out of nowhere over the last hour or two. That's basically what happened. So clearly somebody leaked it out. Maybe it was Scott Boras trying to put pressure on the Mets a little bit, putting that out there. And we know John Heyman is the mouthpiece for Scott Boras. I think the Mets and Martinez have been talking probably for a few days now. The Mets don't leak stuff. So clearly this was Boras getting to John Heyman, telling him to put this out there, maybe putting a little pressure on the Mets to maybe bump up the offer a little bit and saying that there's other teams interested in JD Martinez. So once again, guys, what do you think? Should the Mets sign JD Martinez? Let me know in the comments, guys. Once again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you're enjoying my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Let me know in the comments, guys. JD Martinez to the Mets. Do you want it to happen? I've said it for a while, guys. Martinez is going to fall into the Mets' laps. I always felt that way, and we're this close for it to happen. And once again, guys, I want to thank you for watching. And as always, Mets fans, let's go Mets.